Welcome back to the Membership Geeks podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morrison. Thanks so much for joining me. If you have just encountered the show, then first off, congratulations. You are dialed in to the number one place to be for proven practical tips and advice on growing a successful membership business that can go the distance. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button in your podcast app, whether you're a first timer or whether this is, an episode that you've kind of just dipped into and you dip out every now and then. Hit subscribe because each and every week I'm bringing you solid gold from over a decade of running a successful membership business and helping tens of thousands to accomplish the same. And if you are a long-term listener, if you've been with us for a while, you know I love and appreciate you. Thank you for your continued support, for the reviews, for the feedback and all that good stuff. Now, today we have a very special and very fun episode that is very close to my heart. It combines two big passions for me: gaming and memberships. I am, of course, the membership geek. The geek part is intentional. I'm a little nerdy. I'm a little geeky. I love video games. I love comic books, comic book movies, superhero, all the typical stereotypical stuff. I even wear the glasses. Of course, I am a stereotype. And so it's not just memberships that I geek out about. I'm just an all-round geek. But memberships are my true passion. But video gaming has been at the root, at the heart of my geekdom ever since I was a young lad and I got my first Nintendo. And so don't worry, we're not going to go too much into my existential crisis at how long ago it was since I first played Mario Brothers 1. But today's guest merges both of these worlds because we're talking about gamification. Now, that's a term you possibly heard in the context of memberships, communities, courses, and all of that stuff, but maybe you're not too sure what it means, where it fits, what it looks like, and whether it's something you should be paying attention to. So I brought in a phenomenal gamification specialist, the gamification guru herself, Kimba Cooper-Martin. Now, there is nothing that Kimba doesn't know and understand about gamification. She eats, sleeps, and breathes this stuff. So much that I invited her to be on stage at Retain Live 2025 this September. So very, very soon, if you're listening to this at the date of release. And she's going to deliver the absolute goods. We've got a fantastic talk lined up for her. But I wanted to get her on the show because I know not all of you can make it to Newcastle in September for Retain, and what Kimba can teach you about gamification and how you can enhance your member experience, increase engagement and consumption, improve your onboarding, even improve your member retention. This is stuff you need to know about, and it's the kind of thing where I know certainly when I first started encountering more and more about gamification in memberships, you're looking at things like badges, you're looking at things like leaderboards and points, and something that is very clearly identifiable as, oh, this is gamification, right? But it's more subtle than that. It goes a lot deeper. There's so many other ways in which the psychological principles that come from the gaming world can be applied to your benefit and to your members' benefit when it comes to your membership. So without any further ado, we're going to hear from Kimba about how you can tap into the power of gamification to enhance all aspects of your member experience. So here we go. All right, so I am joined today by Kimba Cooper-Martin. Kimba is a successful, innovative, and creative entrepreneur based in Bristol who is the go-to guru when it comes to gamification. And gamification's enabled Kimba across all aspects of her life and business, whether it's from increasing completion rates of her courses, better retention in her memberships, even to help her keep fit and get extra reading in, learn new skills. Kimba has gamified her existence, and she also now helps other businesses to apply gamification techniques to boost results for themselves and their members. And of course, I'm very, very excited to have Kimba on stage at Retain Live 2025 to bring all of that wisdom to you. But today we're getting a little snippet of that on the episode where we're going to just get into the mix about how membership owners can use gamification. So first of all, Kimba, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. I'm also really excited to be speaking at Retain Live. It's going to be an amazing event. I can't wait.
Yeah. And at the time of recording, we are 6 weeks away. Yes, that has come around really fast. I am just so excited for all our attendees coming from around the world to get to learn about gamification from the source, the guru. So we keep saying gamification. There might be some people who have listened to this and they've heard that word mentioned like 8 or 9 times now, and they're thinking, what in the heck is this? It can be a bit of a buzzword. I think people use it a lot for stuff that it doesn't actually apply to. So what is gamification? How would you define that?
Okay, so I try to stay clear of a very pithy one-line kind of example of what it is, really, because it doesn't matter how many books or podcasts or whatever you listen to or read about gamification, all the experts have their own definition. And I actually feel like it's better for me to give you a bit of a summary. And then I'm sure as we talk, lots of examples will come out. And then by the end of the conversation, everybody listening will be like, oh, I see this everywhere. It's everywhere. So we've all played games. We've played conkers, cricket, tiddlywinks, board games, video games, any kind of game you can imagine. And within those games are tools and techniques that are used to encourage you to keep playing, even when you're bored or you're frustrated because you want to get to that next level or you want to beat your opponent. And so what gamification is taking those games and elements from the game world, those techniques and elements from the game world, and putting them into non-game settings. So you can use gamification in a whole range of different areas, as you alluded to in the little lovely intro there. Thanks for that. I've used it for motivating myself in lots of areas, as well as my team and my customers and my clients. Now, I personally focus on the things that I have experience in gamifying. So memberships, online launches like summits, challenges, things like that, online courses. It's all kind of educational focused, and marketing, social media, because that's kind of my background. But you will see gamification used in lots of places. You'll see it all over the place. You'll have seen, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of I know a million examples and I'm trying to choose one. You'll have seen Duolingo is a great example. So specifically, if you're running an educational membership and you want to learn about gamification being used to teach people things, Duolingo is a really good example. They're a language learning app. They've got over 500,000, million users. No, one of those numbers. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. And they use gamification to help with that kind of stickability to get people to continue to want to learn every day with things like streaks and buddying up with people and little mini challenges and things that you can earn for the different personality types. Not all of those things are going to work for every single user, but the combination that they use can work for lots of different people. Now, they also over gamify a little bit. We can talk about that if you'd like to. But there's lots of examples that you'll see in your day-to-day life. In the Lidl app, they have spin the wheels. They're everywhere. These little techniques that are stolen from the games world. So if I was to give you a pithy one-liner, it would be something along the line of gamification is using tools from the game world and elsewhere to motivate people to do things that they might not naturally be motivated to do.
So how does it motivate people? Why does it? Why do we respond to these little tactics and techniques? Because I think we've all seen them in their natural setting. And as you said, we probably are seeing a lot of gamified experiences without kind of putting 2 and 2 together. That is what is happening. But it definitely works. Anybody who's accidentally found themselves playing a board game with friends until way too late at night, or stuck on a video game, or addicted to an app, it works. Why does it work?
So in a similar way to how marketing works, gamification is all about understanding who it is that you're trying to work with and gamifying to those people. So if you add a competition into your course, your membership, your marketing, where you're encouraging your players, that's what we call in the gamification world, the people who are participating, your players to compete against each other, that will work for certain type of people. But for other people, it's going to put them off because they're not motivated by it. So the gamification works best when you figure out the kinds of people you have in your project and gamify for them. So are you going to add competition, or are you going to add something where people can work together to achieve something? Are you going to add streaks because people are more likely to want to continue because of the psychological loss aversion? Like you don't want to lose something that you've already got. But for some people, that's going to be off-putting as well. So you need to think about, who have I got and what kinds of personalities are there? So there was a study put together was it a study? It's more like a paper put together by a gent called Richard Bartle in the 80s. And he was putting together different personality types, player types for video game. So in the gamification world, we do use these, although he doesn't like that because he said they were designed for video games. But let me talk you through them, and then perhaps that will help you to understand how this can work. So the first one is an achiever. So this is somebody who is motivated by achieving things. So they will love getting a badge. They will love if there's a title they can earn. They want to be at the top of the leaderboard because of that sense of achievement. Then you have socializers. They are the people who love to network. They love to help other people. They are much more motivated by doing something with other people collaboratively than by doing something for the sake of doing it. Explorers are the people who in the game world love to find an Easter egg. Okay, they for those of you who aren't gamers, these are hidden things that you only find if you're really looking for them, or if you know a cheat code to find them. They are things hidden for people to explore and find. Outside of the game world, that could look like exclusive rewards. It could look like extra things that you only find if you're doing all of the work, all that kind of jazz. And then the final one, and this one sounds bad, but I promise you it's not. It's called killer. Okay. So these are in the game world. These are the kinds of people who would shoot someone on their own team if it meant that they got to get the prize. Okay, it's one of those things where they, outside of that as well, they'd like to be at the top of the leaderboard. But the reason they want to be at the top of the leaderboard is not because they want to achieve like achievers. It's because they don't want other people to be at the top of the leaderboard. Okay. Now, it sounds evil, but it's not. It's just a different way of thinking about things. And I do know people within my life who are wonderful human beings, but if you get them in a competitive environment, they'll want to win because they want to win, and that's fine. And you have to build for those kinds of personalities. In a gamified project, anything from 5 to 15% ish of your audience, population, customer base, whatever that happens to be, will be killers. And depending on the kinds of people you attract, that could be more or less. So you have to build for those kinds of people. And so how gamification works is, before I work with a client on gamifying their membership or their course or whatever, we will do surveys with their people and find out, how many of them are achievers, how many of them are socializers, how many of them are explorers. And then we will gamify for those things. We will put in the tools and techniques that make sense for them to motivate those people. And something I talk about quite often is the win-win. And in fact, if you watch any of my talks and we play Drink Along with Kimba, you could get very drunk if you drank every time I said win-win, because for me, gamification and ethical gamification is about making sure that the business is getting the things that they want. So you're gamifying to solve a problem, whether that's, in a membership, whether that's a lack of engagement, whether it's retention, or whether it's not getting enough testimonials to get more people in, whatever. So you're gamifying to get the business objective, but you're also gamifying to help the people who are the players to get what they want as well. And it's really important to understand them very, very well. So, to wrap that diatribe up a little bit, it is very much like marketing in that you need to understand the people, you gamify for the people, and then each tool has its own reason why it works well, things like streaks and loss aversion. But that's essentially how it works.
And that's fascinating. I love the idea of strategically designing for the killers in your audience. It's brilliant. But how do you strike the balance then? Because particularly for people who are achievers or they are killers where it's more of that self-interest, like I can imagine if there's the encouragement of competitiveness, that there is definitely a sweet spot after which it maybe potentially or holds a risk to become destructive within your membership. If you don't want people literally throwing each other under the bus and screwing each other over for the sake of, some invisible virtual credibility within your membership. So how do you keep it fun? How do you keep it productive and make sure that it's enhancing and not potentially risking your community dynamic?
Oh, great. Big question and quite a few answers. Okay. So, firstly, something that I always recommend with gamification is it's not a set and forget situation. You have to test and learn. You're constantly having to test and learn. And within that, you should be talking with your people. And I know, like, I a lot of you will be rolling your eyes or getting upset about this because you don't want to have feedback from your people, because sometimes feedback isn't what you want to hear, but it's the best way to gamify. And I've never done a survey of a client's audience base and they haven't just had lovely things to say. And even if they have something that's a tiny bit critical, it's very much given with a but we love you kind of wrapped around it. So test and learn is definitely the first thing that you need to think about. The other thing is, I talk about ethical gamification a lot because it can be used manipulatively, as some people would say. Give people an option to opt out. If you're going to run competitive things, if you're going to run challenges, so some people run like a 5-day challenge or a 30-day challenge or whatever in their memberships. If you're going to do that kind of thing, absolutely fine. Give people the option to opt in or opt out so they don't have to take part, because some people will be like, actually, if I'm going to lose my points for watching all of my videos or whatever, if I don't take part in this challenge, then why am I in this membership? Like, I'm in this membership to learn, or I'm in this membership to network with other people, or whatever reason they're there for. So you also want to give people lots of different options. And I think, again, I hate to sound repetitive here, but always bring it back to the why. Why are you doing this competition? Why are you doing this challenge? Why are you doing this thing? It's to help them. And so the second that you think that you get carried away with yourself, because it's so easy to get carried away with gamification, you get stuck. You're like, this sounds fun. This sounds great engaging. I would love this. And that's a big red flag. I would love this is a big red flag, because what you would love doesn't necessarily relate to what your audience would love. As soon as you start getting too carried away with yourself, do a sense check.
Yeah.
So, trial things, do smaller versions, do the, MVP, minimal viable product. That's easy for me to say. And yeah, just test and learn. Like, always think, how can I do this in the smallest way possible, to try things and see what the response is. You'll get feedback, even if you don't do a survey. If it's bad and people really don't like it, people will start leaving, and you don't want that. So you need to be testing to save your revenue and to save your mental health, I think, to be honest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always say people are always looking for the secret to any sort of online success, the magic bullet, and it's feedback. It's almost always data and feedback. Like, that will direct you in anything, and especially with something like gamification, where you are really catering towards behaviors and that kind of below the surface side of your member base, then that's even more critical. How about the people who just don't care? The people who just don't respond to this kind of thing. I was going to say the people who are naturally more like lurkers within your community, but you will get people who don't actively make themselves seen and heard and known, who will still respond to stuff like this. But what about the people who, they just want the quiet life? They don't need a badge. They don't need to feel like they're collaborating. Maybe they don't fit into one of those 4 buckets. Or does everyone kind of align with one of those profiles?
No. So, I mean, firstly, those are just overarching profiles. There are, I think there's 16 that have been developed since then. And also, it's like any psychological profiling. Yeah. Everyone kind of goes into a little bit of each thing, depending on the situation. In work, you might be one, and at home, you might be another. When you're playing Monopoly, you might be another, some of my friends won't play Monopoly with me anymore because, various reasons. So the answer I'm going to give you is probably one that you might not expect. You don't have to gamify everything. You don't have to gamify everything. It's not always beneficial to gamify everything. Not everybody wants to be gamified. 100% of everybody isn't going to want to take part in your thing, and that's okay. Giving them the opportunity to just carry on as they are in some cases is fine. Some people, people think of lurkers as a bad thing, but I know so many people who still get the stuff done. They just don't want to talk to you about it. That's all right.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine.
I'm a lurker. I've took me a while to realize that my behavior in other people's communities, I'm a lurker, but I'll log in every single day. I'll extract value every day. I'll really feel like I'm participating, but I don't realize I've never introduced myself. I never post in the community. I've been in some communities for maybe 12 years, and I've got maybe 5 posts, but I check in regularly throughout the week. So yeah, lurkers aren't terrible. We need a better name for lurkers.
But that's a great example. Is my instant thought is, are they incentivizing you to do those things, or is it just an option? If they're not incentivizing you to do it, then you're not going to do it. If there's no reason, for example, once you do your introduction post, then we'll unlock the first video. You do your introduction post because you want to get to the next thing. if it is vital to the end goal of whatever your community is, that somebody introduce themselves and engages, then you need to make it compulsory is the wrong word. A lot of people will get their heckles up in response to that for sure, but make it attractive, I guess is a better thing. And I think, you're going to see out there, any of you in lots of different memberships, you'll see people using techniques that work really well in their communities, but they might not work well for certain people or in yours. The classic example is carrot or stick. So, some people are not motivated by rewards. The shock when I heard this, and then I realized I always promise myself a reward for doing something, and I never give myself the reward because I'm an achiever. So I like the achievement. I don't need a reward at the end. But some people who aren't an achiever and don't like rewards, also, the punishment needs to be really, really strong. If, you're going down the punishment route, the stick route, it's not, you're not actually punishing your student. It needs to be really, really strong in that. I had a conversation on another podcast, actually, with a lady who said that if she promised herself a bar of chocolate, if she did X, Y, and Z, she's an adult. What's to stop her just eating the chocolate? Absolutely nothing. So how can you make the win or the loss, the carrot or the stick, external to you so that you're not involved in it, so that it'll motivate you to do things more? But how can you do that for your members? So giving people the option, are you, and it comes back to this feedback thing over and over and over again. And that is a big technique in games. If you think about any video games, you're constantly getting feedback on how your health is, how you're doing against other competitors. Feedback is a huge thing in gamification. But you just need to be talking with people because, for example, I know at the moment in one of my memberships, it's a quiet week. People aren't showing up to things, but I've spoken to them recently. So I know 2 of them on holiday, a couple of them have got, they're off with their kids. I know where they're all at, and I know that it's not a reflection on me. And you need to remember it's never personal. It's not a reflection on the content. It's not a reflection on anything apart from the fact that people have lives and people are busy. Or in the example you just gave, Mike, you just don't engage in that way. And that's okay. As long as you're getting out of it what you need, that's fine. And so I talked about this with one of my clients a while ago. The way that her membership is set up is that she has different areas for people at different stages in their journey. So if they come into her membership and they don't need the basics, they'll go straight into the middle section. And so when she was providing me with the stats at the beginning, she was like, I'm only getting like 25 to 33% completion rate on all the stuff. And then we looked at it and I was like, your 100% success rate is 33% because people only need to complete a third, to start with, and then they might move on. So you need to think, what is a good completion rate for me? Are the people getting what they need out of it? And if you're not sure about those things, you need to be asking them. And also, have conversations. I know I've had one person, she's not in my membership anymore, but she was in my membership for a long time. And every call she'd say, I don't like this gamification stuff. It's not for me. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Like, she's there anyway because she needs the other things that were in the membership. And she cracks me up. But the fact that she felt like she could share that with me was brilliant. And I think, we've come a long way from the question. But the answer is you're not going to engage everybody. Gamification is not the answer to everything. And that's all right.
So obviously, in talking about games, there might be some people who, as soon as they've heard, board games, video games, right away they've switched off from the concept because they're thinking, okay, well, these are fun, these are, they're exciting things, but I run a pretty sober membership. My topic is very straightforward. And I'm sure you hear this constantly, I just don't think my members would respond to gamification. Yeah. Is it something for which you need to be a particular type of person? Is it for something which your brand needs a bit of excitement and spark to it, or your topic? Or is this something even, I don't want to use the B word, but the most boring topic, our membership, from the perspective of the person running it? Is there still a lot of scope for gamification to work well in every membership, potentially? Based on feedback, of course.
Yes, based on feedback. So, but, interesting. So the feedback that I would get would not be to ask the question, do you like gamification or not? Simply because a lot of people don't know what it is, and they might make the assumptions that lots of other people make, which is it's only for fun people, it's only for children, it's only for men, It's only for people under a certain age, all these things. And all of those are not true. So let me give you an example. LinkedIn, possibly the most boring social media platform on the planet.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got its purpose, but it's boring. And for a long time, I don't know if they still do it, but they would give you a little progress tracker of how complete your profile was to encourage you to complete your profile. And so many more people completed their profile because they wanted that little circle to be full. Like, it's a very boring, it's a very simple thing. It's not beating a monster. It's not, it's a progress tracker. That's all it is. And it's encouraging people to do something that they wouldn't necessarily naturally otherwise do because they want to complete that thing. One of my clients has a membership which is also attached to software as a service. So they have a piece of software and the membership is about teaching those people how to use the software. Lovely person, great community. It's a boring topic. It's just dry and they know that. Although I'm sure that they wouldn't probably say it out loud. And obviously I'm not naming any names, but I think it's about all you're doing is using a tool like any other tool to encourage people to do something they might not otherwise do. So, things that are also gamification that are boring or possibly considered to be negative, but you could include in any community. Scarcity is a big one. You see it all the time in games, countdown timers. You've only got so many lives, all these kind of things. So scarcity being how much time you have left to do something or how many of a thing you've got left. Nothing wrong with it as long as it's not fake. But that is a very boring gamification technique. Very simple things you can use without being, flashy and over the top. And, some people have said, oh, it's all right for you because you've got lots of energy and you're this and you're that and the other. You don't have to do any of the things in the ways that I do them. You could use polls to survey your audience. You could do little tiny things to get engagement. A huge misconception of gamification is that you have to build a big 3D gaming environment. It has to be like video games. And some of the best gamification I've done has been really, really simple stuff, this or that poll in your Instagram stories, very, very simple stuff to move people from one place to another, to do market research, to find out where people are at, all these kind of things. And actually, perhaps controversially, for those of you who are hoping you can get out of it by saying I'm in a boring industry or I've got a boring business, sorry to keep using the B word, or I'm not fun, people say that all the time, is actually, if you are in like an accounting or legal or something like that, you're going to stand up so much better. You're going to stand out so much better compared to your competitors if you're doing something interesting, engaging, different, novel in your business. You are going to stand out compared to the others who are doing everything in a very same way. And you don't have to be, all singing, all dancing. You can do very simple things to add some gamification. It's just a motivational tool. It's like anything, really. It's like saying, I can't use TikTok because I can't dance. You don't have to dance to do well on TikTok. You don't.
I suppose if you dance badly, it's its own genre. Well, it's not deliberately bad gamification. Maybe isn't something we should be advocating. But maybe it is. Yeah, maybe I'd like the idea of an over-gamified, in totally the wrong way kind of member experience, just for the novelty.
If that goes with your personality, your brand, and the people, 100% give it a go. Why not? It's a bit of fun at the end of the day. Why does business have to be so serious and straight-laced? Just have a bit of fun, try things out. And I think that's the other thing, I was saying before about testing and learning. Just have some fun with it. Don't think it's the end of the world if it doesn't go right. Don't think it's a failure. Just always start with, this is an experiment. It's a bit of fun when you're a kid and you're experimenting, messing around with things in the garden. You never think, oh, it didn't work, I'm going to end my business now.
I think some of the thing is, well, for one, people running a membership, you've got the perfect environment to experiment because this isn't a kind of one and done product. It's not something that's fixed and finite. Your membership's constantly evolving. It's a living product. So you have a playground there that you can try some things out. And if it doesn't land, it doesn't land. You just learn from it and then adapt for the next chapter and the next thing that you do. But also, I think because the more that social media platforms, even the boring ones, again, sorry to LinkedIn, the more subtle gamification elements come in, then the more your audience is going to get accustomed to them. So it's even people who you think might not be receptive to something that is derived from the gaming world, that's just becoming how they'll almost expect to engage. It's kind of the bar is rising up. And so even if you just do that level, it's not going to necessarily feel to your audience that they are being gamified.
Yeah, they don't necessarily need to know that that's what you're doing. You know, if you always set it out with, I'm going to try X, Y, and Z. It's an experiment. We're doing it because we want you to get the most out of the membership possible. They're going to be on board. And if they're not, that's okay. It's definitely a great place to test things out and try new things. And novelty is a thing that I talk about over and over again. And again, if we were playing Drink Along with Kimba at Retain Live, I'm probably going to say that word about 50 times. So I wouldn't if I was you. Novelty is a huge gamification technique, and in memberships where things can get stale, it is really important to be trying new things all the time, even if they're tiny, weeny changes. And gamification is a really good thing to do that with. Just trying little things here and there, but not doing it too much, because there is definitely a balance to be had with too much novelty, too much change. You know, as you've already alluded to, people are already feeling a bit, I don't know if affronted is the right word, by, you know, the constant change. You know, AI is coming in, and I haven't even got my handle on TikTok yet. I'm still trying to figure out Instagram. I can't keep up with all the things. So there is definitely something to be said for not doing too much, adding too many things in too fast, or just at all, you know, getting overexcited and adding in, oh, now I'm going to do a challenge, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then we're going to do the other. And, you know, people start to then feel left behind. And that is the worst thing in a membership or a course, because as soon as people start feeling left behind, they leave.
Yeah. And of course, if you're just, if your priority is on finding new ways of gamifying the experience and not the actual substance, then I suppose it would be quite easy to get distracted. So obviously we've touched on quite a lot of different gamification techniques that are becoming just increasingly standard in a lot of experiences, particularly on social media, and you start to see that coming into memberships and online courses. But are there any particular examples of creative or especially effective tactics, gamification styles, things that you like to do, specifically across 3 areas? So personally, when I think gamification, I always think about engagement with content, engaging with community, getting people to show up, participate, do stuff, which I know isn't the full scope of what gamification can achieve. So can you give me kind of one quick little favorite or standout tactic for gamifying onboarding, engagement, and retention across?
Oh, okay. Okay. So onboarding, I think unlocking stuff is always going to be, it's obvious, it's bog standard. A surprising amount of people don't do it. They just go, here are your 12 onboarding things. They overwhelm people. That's too much. They don't know where to go. And so definitely unlocking, which is, you know, very simple. You watch a video, you get access to the next one. Now, there's always ways to cheat the system, in that people could, if they wanted to, click to the end of it and move on. But they're only cheating themselves. You know, we build into every gamified system, we build in ways that people could cheat the system, and 9 times out of 10, it's just they're only going to be.
I suppose that satisfies the killers as well, the ones who want to win at all cost, even if it's a little shortcut, because they're going to feel so smart.
Yeah, well, they will, until they don't know what they're doing once they're in the membership, but then they've done that to themselves. So, you know, there's that. So that's an obvious one. I've seen a few people doing things like quizzes during onboarding, so that you can figure out what they need, where they need to be going next, what's the pathway for them. Although that does involve, and I'm going to give you a heads up here, if you're going to do that, it involves a lot of work on the back end. Quizzes are not a small not a small thing that you have to put together. And after the end of it, you then have to have the different pathways for people to go down. Now, it is good. It's really good from a personalization perspective. It's really good from a unique personal experience perspective. It is very, very good. But if you don't have the team and the resources and the time, don't go down the quiz route. So there's a couple of ideas, but, you know, I've said it a lot and I'll say it again. It depends on your people. It depends on your membership. It depends what you've got going on. Some people are going to hate an unlocking system. Some people are going to hate a quiz. Think about what it is you want to achieve in that onboarding. And if it's simply that you want them to get them to take 1 action or 2 actions or 3 actions, then how can you do that? Engagement. So that was the next one, wasn't it?
Yes.
Engagement. So engagement, I would say, if people aren't engaging, it's going to be for a few different reasons. Either they're a Mike Morrison who doesn't want to, and that's fine. Or they are somebody that was engaging and they're not anymore, in which case, novelty. And actually, novelty is probably a good answer. So what does that actually mean, Kimba? So let me give you an example. You've been running your membership with a Facebook group community, and you've been posting in there for 5 years, the same topics, the same things, and they've been working fine and people love them. But over time, people have stopped engaging with them. And that's because of a psychological thing called habituation. You heard of this? So I'll explain a little bit in case anyone listening hasn't. So habituation is a way that our brain has developed. You know, once upon a time, we'd be out in the wild hunting for things. And if you see something that's out of the ordinary, that's something that's out of the normal pattern, then that's a threat. So your brain will be focusing on that. But if you're doing the same things each day and things are the same, then your brain is programmed to not notice them anymore because it's not a threat. So you can focus on the things that could be a threat. Now, obviously, we don't have those dangers anymore. What that means is if your membership is doing the same thing it's done for the last 5 years and you haven't made any changes, then people's minds, even if they want to engage, even if they find the thing really useful, even if it's what they want more than anything, it will naturally disengage because there's other things that are new and challenging and a bigger threat. So, you know, in terms of your brain chemistry, it's not actually a threat. So those are the things that they'll engage with. So simple, very simple things that you can do. Change the graphic colors. You know, if you're looking for the simplest things you can do right now, you know, change your graphic colors, maybe change the wording on the post, change the days up, change the way that you deliver that thing. So maybe instead of it being a post on a Friday asking them how their week went, maybe it's now an email with a Google form. And then you populate some of your best ones into the Facebook group. You might think, how is that gamification? Because it's about figuring out who they are and what they do and making it personal and changing it up. So novelty is the way, you know, how can I change this to make them concentrate on it again? How can I, you know, maybe you then, if you're like, okay, well, this has worked a little bit, but I want to increase more engagement. So then maybe, and I'm thinking on the fly here, but maybe then you go, okay, well, I'm going to pick my favorite top answers from maybe my favorite 3 or 5 top answers from this thread once a month. And I'm going to invite them onto my podcast, or I'm going to do, you know, something individual and unique for them. So who's going to like that? Achievers are going to like it because it's going to be top of the leaderboard. They want to be in the top 5. Killers want to be in the top 5. They want to be in the top of the leaderboard. The explorers are going to love it because it's exclusive. They get access to being on your podcast with you, even though they're not a big guru, whatever. And the socializers are in the group because they want to network with people, including you. They want to be in a session with you. So, you know, how can you do something that's going to works for all of those people? Now, obviously, this is going to be different depending on who you are and what your membership is and who your people are. But those are the kinds of things you can start thinking. How can I change things up so that those people can win, in inverted commas, what they want out of it? Because they want to learn more, which they probably do through the podcast. You know, this is a terrible example, but hopefully you get the idea. And what was the third thing?
Retention.
Oh, retention. Okay, retention is an interesting one because I think people focus on retention when they sometimes aren't focusing on the actual problems elsewhere. So I think it's a symptom, personally.
Yeah. They're looking at the point at which a decision's already kind of getting made about whether to leave, which is almost too late in a lot of cases. Yeah,
it is too late. And I think that it can be solved with the feedback situation. So, you know, figuring out that your retention, again, this comes back to statistics and knowing your numbers and understanding what your numbers mean. So you might think you have a high churn rate, you have a high number of people leaving, but what it actually might be is you have a high number of people who've got what they needed.
Yeah.
You might have a high number of people who've got exactly what they needed. And so what you have there is not a retention problem. What you have there is a bad system for collecting case studies.
Yeah.
So you can gamify that, you know, if you are collecting feedback from people on a semi-regular basis, you can be finding out how far through they are, how they're feeling. And you can also when people are leaving, you can offer them an additional month at a discounted rate if they'll do a case study with you. Or a free month, or whatever whatever works for you, because you can then use that to get more people in. If the problem is engagement, then you need to figure out how you can gamify the engagement and how you can get more people to engage. If the problem is actually something else, then you need to figure out what that is. And again, you could be doing, you can be incentivizing people to give you regular feedback, so you find out what the actual problem is. But that's what it is. It doesn't matter what the thing is. Gamification is about solving a business problem to do with motivation. And so if it is a motivation based problem, then you can gamify it, as long as it's not something that is intrinsically motivating. Because if something is intrinsically motivating, if somebody wants to do it already, gamifying it can have the opposite effect. And we don't want that.
Definitely not. And no, I like that. So onboarding, unlocking stuff. And I do think membership owners in particular, where I think maybe the expectation is someone joins, they get access to everything. Like memberships are a big box of stuff. So we don't want to keep any stuff, which is not the way to go. I like the simplicity of just novelty, focusing on the novelty, switching up the colors. Even if you play, the little game on Google Chrome on your phone when you don't have internet connection, the little dinosaur jumping game.
Yeah.
And after a certain amount of time, it switches to a black color scheme. And then after a bit, it switches back. And that doesn't do anything other than just change what you're looking at to stop you just kind of fading out and getting bored. And something that subtle.
Well, the senses is a big thing in the games world. You don't recognize it. And, a lot of people, they think, oh, yeah, well, obviously, video games are sight and sound. But a lot of video games these days, you have a controller that will also vibrate when you do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. How can you incorporate the senses to change the way that people interact with your membership? Which obviously with online memberships, sometimes that can be difficult. But you can add in little things here and there to change people's association with stuff. So, we used to run an Instagram course a long time ago. And at the beginning and end of every video, we had an intro and outro, which was like 10 seconds long. And it was just a silly thing that, I got made a little animation into our logo. And so many people went through that course. I had people messaging me saying they were watching one of my videos and their kid came in and said, oh, you're watching the lady with curly hair. Because even their kids associated that learning time and that noise with me and what I was doing. And so can you be changing things up? Can you be adding in things here, there, and everywhere to add more senses so that they're especially in an educational membership, they're in a learning mode? It changes, it adds novelty. Yeah, senses are a really important part of gamification.
Oh, I love that. So you kind of briefly mentioned this before, when you made reference to obviously the increase the proliferation of AI. Is that affecting gamification? How do you see both the rise of AI as kind of just something people are just accustomed to now? It's almost just a part and parcel tool of what you're doing in online space. That, and I think community platforms becoming more sophisticated. How is this shaping the future of gamification? Or is it just always going to be the same key principles regardless of the other elements at play?
It's an interesting question. I think there is a possibility that in the future it will be helpful. I think if you're learning gamification now and you're trying to implement it now, using AI is not going to help you. I've asked it so many times to help, help me put this consultation document together or whatever, and it comes up with the same things over and over again: points, badges, leaderboards. Yeah. If you go online and you search for gamification in blogs, they all say the same 4 or 5 things. And all I've noticed so far, and this is going to sound like a real downer, but it's the truth, is that we've got this horrible circular reproduction. And I can see it. Marketers now, their new blogs are coming out and I'm like, oh, it's a gamification blog. And I have a look. And they've just copied. It's clearly been written by AI because it's just copied the same stuff. There's nothing new. There's nothing interesting. There's nothing different in there. If you know what you're doing with gamification, yes, using it for brainstorming is a brilliant idea. And somebody that I know that's used AI well with gamification is that, and they very much knew what they were doing, is you can use AI to create these characters. They're like Muppet versions of you or Lego versions of you.
Oh, yes, I've done that.
I'm sure you have.
Yes.
So what they did is somebody was signing up for an in-person event, and for when a person joined, they created them a I'm going to this event image with a Muppet, or I can't remember what it was, but it was one of those. And everybody really, the FOMO is a big gamification technique. The personalization, that's gamification technique. The relatedness, so social relatedness is wanting to be, in with other people, like other people, related, that kind of thing. Those things were all so strong with that people who were like on the fence were buying tickets for this event because they wanted their own personalized little graphic that they could use to say they were attending. It really, really helped sell out that event. And that was a really good example of understanding gamification and how it works, all of the tools and techniques, and thinking, how can I use AI to make this better? But that's the same with everything. I'm sure it's like I'm teaching people to suck eggs here. It's again, AI is a tool. So if you go to it with rubbish, you'll get rubbish. If you go to it with a knowledge of, I want to do X, Y, and Z, these are the things that I think would be a good idea. And you can ask it for help with that. But, and the big caveat here, always ask it to be critical, because AI is designed to tell you that you're a bloody genius.
Yes, that does seem to be the thing most people don't realize. It's not there to, it's monetization, its business model is centered around just making you feel good and not giving you the best stuff. And I don't think we're accustomed to that. As, if you think of like search, if you think of Google, until they started going very AI heavy, their purpose was to get you to the best places. Like, because they needed to be trusted as somewhere that will send you in the right direction. AI just wants to make you feel like you are just this very, very special little snowflake in your own little world, and nobody's as smart or as clever as you. And I think that shows in a lot of the ways that people are using it and then just taking what they're told as is.
Yeah, so definitely, at the end of your prompt, say, and please be critical.
Tear this apart, yeah.
Yeah, like, tell me what's wrong with this. Tell me why this is a bad idea. That's what I want you to do. Because that's what you would get from a coach. That's what you would get.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that there's a lot of possibilities. It's not quite there yet. There's so much that could come as a result of it. And obviously, eventually, all kinds of jobs will be obsolete because they'll be able to do it. But what I'm finding is that more and more industries are using gamification in more and more creative ways, and that's only going to improve. And as that happens, more information will be available, which means AI will have more information. Currently, the amount of information online, when I first started doing gamification, I read, hundreds and hundreds of gamification books and did a lot of practice and did a lot of courses and all that kind of stuff. And AI doesn't have all those things yet. So just, try it, do what you can, make sure to be critical and test and learn.
All right, so I think just to kind of wrap things up, I'd love to hear about your favorite gamified experience that you've been part of as a, what do you call kind of the participant in a gamified experience? Gamifyee, the player, yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Do you know what? The first thing that came to mind, and it didn't occur to me as gamification, I wonder if it is gamification or if it's just an experience. A lot of interactive experiences feel like gamification, but aren't necessarily, because the difference, I guess, is that it's to solve a problem. So I'm trying to think. Oh, okay. So we a couple of months ago went traveling around Spain and France in the van. And are you into football at all?
Yes.
Okay. So there was a big championship league tournament in Bilbao. And we just happened to be traveling through. And wow, okay, so we're walking through, and the purpose of the things that we walked through was to get more people interested in football, because more people play football and watch football will be good for their income. And everywhere we looked, there were, you could practice your football technique. So there was like a big inflatable net and you could kick balls into it and win prizes. There was a thing where you had to kick a ball over the river, and the people who got it furthest into this net, which people were losing shoes and all sorts, it was absolutely nuts, were getting prizes. There was like tackling, dribbling, where you'd dribble a football up and down this little thing. There was all sorts of stuff. There was lots of sounds. There was lots of different examples of gamification being used to explain to people why football was a good thing and to attract people over to this fun thing. But there were also big brands there. So Lidl was there, and they had, they had like an exhibition stand, but they had puffs, what are they called? Like beanbag proof chair things, but that were in the shapes of footballs. And so adding the novelty, they had like big inflatable vegetables outside and things. So all of the stands in their own way were adding some novelty. They were adding some like random prize rewards as well. There was a lot of spin the wheel to win X, Y, and Z. And if you're walking along there, like especially if you're a kid, you're just like, oh wow, loads of games, lots of fun things to play. But it's all subconsciously saying football, football, football. Come and enjoy football, come and watch more football, come and play more football. So it's a win-win scenario. There was a great atmosphere, there was a great vibe, there was lots of sounds, there was lots of fun. That was a very physical example, and we just happened upon it, and it was really good. There are lots and lots of examples that you see everywhere, but as a player, and like dual definition there accidentally, because I'm not a football player, and I'm not particularly interested in football, but I was wandering around and my husband was like, why are you so interested in this? I was like, because there's gamification everywhere. It's everywhere. I need to write it all down and like tell all of my people about it. It's hilarious. It's really, really good that, they've done a great job, because a lot of the time you'll go to markets and you'll go to fairs and they've tried to gamify, done a terrible job of it. Yeah. And this was a really good example. Every single one of the examples. Oh, there was a Flixbus. Is it Flixbus? They're like Megabus or that kind of thing. And they had a big, huge area where you could have a remote control bus, and you could drive it all around this area, and it was really hilarious. But so that was educating about their brand and stuff, but you won prizes that were to do with football. So again, it's all linked with the theme. Theming is very important in gamification. Yeah. It's all about reminding people, what their brand is and why, obviously you can take their bus to go to the games, whatever the reason is that they decided that they wanted to sponsor that particular event. But there was just so much there, and it was so creative. And you will see this everywhere. Everywhere you're walking out in the streets, you'll see competitions, you'll see people, and you think, right, how can I learn from this for my business and my membership? How can I apply this to my next launch, or whatever that thing might be?
Yeah, I always think that's a really good skill to develop as well, of just looking at the wider world, looking outside of memberships and seeing what the lessons and what could be applicable. And ultimately, that's what gamification is. Love that. All right, so I could talk about this sort of stuff all day, because this is that Venn diagram between my geeky side and my business side. But sadly, I am going to need to let you go until Retain Live. If someone wants to find out a bit more about the work that you do, learn more about how they could utilize gamification within their membership, where should they go?
So we are at Kimba Digital on all the social platforms. That's probably the easiest way to find us. But I do have a specific freebie for membership owners. 7 big mistakes. Let's try that again. 7 big mistakes businesses make when gamifying their memberships, and what to do instead. Now, this isn't just your download a PDF freebie, although you do have that option if you want. It has a few options. So you can kind of choose your own adventure. You can either download it as a PDF, you can have it as an email series, you can watch it as a series of videos, or you can listen to it as an audio series, playing on the senses there. And this also comes down to another technique, which I haven't mentioned, which is autonomy or choice. It's really good to give your audience, your members, autonomy and choice. You can choose which one you want. So if you go to our website, kimbadigital.com, and go to the freebie section, you'll find it there, and choose the option that works the most for you. And hopefully there'll be some stuff in there that you'll find useful for your membership.
Perfect. I love that. And of course, anyone who's listening who's kind of curious about seeing practical examples of gamification, then you get the dual benefit. You get to learn the great stuff from the freebie, but you get to see how Kimba, the guru on gamification, is actually gamifying that whole experience as well. So win-win. There we go, to use one of your favorite drinking words. Kimba, thank you so much for coming on the show. I cannot wait to learn more from you at Retain. I know that everyone who's in that room is going to just be frantically scribbling down notes and taking away some fantastic ideas for their membership. It's been an absolute honor having you on the podcast. And thanks for sharing all of your wisdom.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's been great.
All right, thanks again to Kimba for coming on the show and for geeking out about gamification. So many great tips and insights there, and certainly some key things that I've taken away, and it's given me some food for thought on how I can utilize gamification better as part of the onboarding for Membership Academy. So yeah, hopefully you have taken something that you can apply to your own membership. I'm sure that you're sitting there with copious notes about how you can refine and level up your membership experience. That is it for this episode. Thanks again to Kimba. If you are coming along to Retain Live in a couple of weeks' time, then you're going to learn even more about gamification strategy. And if not, well, there's still time to grab a virtual ticket if you head to retainlive.com before September 22nd, because when that day comes, we're going to be busy with Retain Live. We're doing this thing. We've been waiting a year for Retain Live to happen, and it is coming up very, very soon. So if you're listening to this after the 22nd of September 2025, then you missed your shot, but hopefully you still took away such immense value from today's episode. And of course, be sure to check out the resource that Kimba shared during the episode, and we'll pop the links in the show notes. That's it from me, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Membership Geeks podcast. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this week's episode of the Membership Geeks podcast, we invite you to check out membershipacademy.com. Membership Academy is the original membership about memberships, and it's the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a successful online membership business. Whether you're still trying to figure out what your idea is going to be and you need some help making it a reality, or whether your website is already up and running and you're looking for ways to grow and attract new members, then Membership Academy can help you to get to the next level. Not only do you get access to our step-by-step membership roadmap, our extensive training library, and exclusive member-only discount and tools, you'll also become part of our supportive, active community of membership owners that will help you along the way in your journey with feedback, encouragement, and advice. All of this and more make Membership Academy the #1 place to be for anyone looking to start, manage, and grow a successful membership business. Check it out and join the community at membershipacademy.com.